Vinyl resting place, the remoulding and revival of concept albums in modern music. Introduction. The concept album has long been a celebrated cornerstone of popular music, being an artistic ambition that goes beyond the limits of traditional record making. Defined as a collection of songs written by a musician or group that is based around a central theme or concept, concept albums transform music into a storytelling medium, providing listeners with an immersive experience that surpasses standalone tracks. From the late 1960s to the early 2000s, this format gained iconic status, producing timeless works that captured the cultural significance, delved into profound philosophical ideas, or crafted intricate narratives. However, in the age of streaming services and digital playlists, where singles reign and listeners increasingly prefer fragmented consumption, the concept album encounters new challenges and opportunities. This essay examines how the concept album is evolving in the modern music landscape, exploring its changing role, innovative interpretations, and ongoing relevance in a fragmented musical environment. The concept album emerged as a significant force in the 1960s with the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, often hailed as one of the first mainstream examples. The album blurred the lines between pop and art, presenting a loose narrative structure connecting to the fictional band featured within the record. Paul McCartney, renowned member of the Beatles, encapsulates the experience by stating, "We were fed up with being Beatles. We'd now got turned on to pop and thought of ourselves as artists rather than just performers. Then suddenly on the plane, I got this idea. I thought, let's not be ourselves. Let's develop alter egos so we're not having to project an image which we know." Around the same period, the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds and The Who's Tommy established the format as a medium for introspection, innovation, and expansive storytelling. By the 1970s, concept albums became closely associated with progressive rock and glam, with works like Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon and David Bowie's The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, pushing the limits of narrative and thematic unity. This trend continued into the 1980s and 1990s, albeit with a diversification of genres. Metallica's Master of Puppets explored themes of power and addiction, while concept albums in hip-hop, such as De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising, introduced new dimensions to the format. However, with the rise of streaming platforms and a shift away from album-centric listening, the popularity of concept albums has started to decline. Although that is not to say the concept album has vanished, rather it has evolved. Contemporary artists are discovering inventive ways to reinterpret the format, utilising digital technology, multimedia components, and creative marketing techniques to engage their audiences. For example, Beyoncé's Lemonade transformed the concept album into a more visual experience, combining music with a cohesive film to narrate a deeply personal tale of betrayal, resilience, and empowerment. This motif is explored by music director Courtney Lewis, who claims it's also a manifesto of personal creativity. After several albums in which the musical content was largely driven by record companies' desires to promote a sellable pop artist, Beyoncé emerges as a powerful narrator on her own terms. Similarly, Kendrick Lamar's Damn played with narrative sequencing, encouraging listeners to explore its themes from various angles. This essay will trace the evolution of concept albums from their peak in the 20th century to their innovative revival in the digital era. By analysing modern concept albums and how artists navigate their creative visions within the context of streaming culture, it seeks to demonstrate how this timeless format continues to adapt, showing that even in an age dominated by fleeting singles, the concept album remains a significant medium for storytelling. Chapter 1. The historical and contextual relevance of the concept album. When considering its importance, one must first look to the history of the concept album, which is one of monumental importance. As stated by musicologist Todd Decker, the introduction of the long-playing record in 1948 was the most aesthetically significant technological change in the century of the recorded music disc. This technological change allowed for new practices within the industry to occur. Decker goes on to write, "The new format challenged record producers and recording artists of the 1950s to group sets of songs into marketable wholes and led to a first generation of concept albums that predate more celebrated examples by rock bands from the 1960s. Concept albums hold a unique place in music history as works that transcend the traditional collection of songs, not only offering cohesive narratives but also thematic unity and innovative artistry. And, as stated by David Montgomery, the concept album exemplifies the dichotomy between compositional practice and social function like no other recorded music. The concept album can be commonly highlighted in 3 key areas: musical artistry, storytelling, and cultural impact. In terms of artistry, concept albums are celebrated as vehicles for musicians to experiment with form and structure. Notably, these albums often challenge conventional song arrangements and invite listeners into immersive sonic landscapes. Iconic examples like Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon and Radiohead's OK Computer demonstrate how concept albums push the boundaries of genre and production techniques, elevating music to a more avant-garde art form. Storytelling is another key factor of concept albums. It is argued that these works blur the lines between music and literature, employing lyrics, instrumental, and sequencing to weave narratives or explore complex themes. For instance, Pink Floyd's The Wall and Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly are lauded by the public and critics alike for their compelling narratives about identity, societal struggles, and personal trauma, creating an emotional resonance akin to that of a novel or film. Culturally, concept albums often serve as reflections of or responses to their times. Albums like Marvin Gaye's What's Going On capture socio-political unrest, while others challenge norms or articulate countercultural ideas. It can be asserted that concept albums amplify music's capacity to influence and reflect societal change, underscoring their enduring legacy in popular culture as both artistic and cultural artifacts. Even after reviewing all of the reasons concept albums should be thriving in modern society, they're simply not. But why? One must turn to modern music trends and wavering attention spans to answer the question. In examining the diminishing prevalence of concept albums in modern music, it is crucial to explore how digital fragmentation and shifting audience expectations have reshaped the landscape. The rise of streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music have fundamentally altered how music is consumed, emphasizing individual tracks over cohesive albums. Unlike the vinyl or CD eras, where listeners often experienced albums in their entirety, the streaming model encourages the creation of hits tailored for playlists. Journalist Joseph Timmons highlights the idea, emphasizing how playlists are key to discovering new music. Platforms use data to pick playlists that attract the most attention. They then tweak these to keep users engaged. For instance, if data shows a chill-out playlist for work is popular on weekday afternoons, they'll promote similar ones. This shift has undermined the appeal of long-form, narrative-driven works, as algorithms prioritize songs that stand alone, maximizing engagement metrics like streams and shares. Consequently, the immersive storytelling that once defined concept albums is less incentivized in today's music industry. Moreover, audience behaviors have evolved in ways that clash with the demands of concept albums. Younger listeners in particular are shaped by the rapid consumption patterns of digital platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, where content is bite-sized and designed for instant engagement. Dave Van Dyke of Bridge Ratings Media Research states, Gen Z music consumers frequently listen to less than 50% of a song. This skip phenomenon has existed since on-demand streaming was first introduced by Spotify and Pandora, but we see this increase significantly over the past 5 years. This preference for brevity and variety creates challenges for artists attempting to craft albums that require sequential, deep listening. It can be argued that this reflects broader trends in attention economics, where prolonged focus on a single creative work is increasingly rare. Singles appeal to the tastes of a younger, digital-first generation. Most listeners don't much care about the deep, immersive experience of an album. Rather, they consume music in snack-sized pieces, favouring the tracks that deliver instant satisfaction. While albums take months, even years to produce, singles provide a quicker, more agile way for artists to respond to trends, test new sounds, and keep audience engagement high. In the words of Pink Pantheress, English singer, songwriter, and record producer, a song doesn't need to be longer than 2 minutes 30, in my opinion. We don't need to repeat a verse, we don't need to have a bridge. If even the artists themselves are saying it, how can the consumers resist? From the perspectives of artists, the pressure to maintain visibility and relevance in a fast-paced digital environment further discourages ambitious projects. In the words of director Charlie Burrows, if platforms continue to encourage artists to create for an algorithm and an audience to cheer for trends instead of a connection, artists won't want to create. Frequent releases of singles or EPs often take precedence over the painstaking process of developing a thematic album. While some contemporary artists such as Kendrick Lamar and Janelle Monáe have found critical success with concept albums, they are outliers in a landscape dominated by commercially driven singles. As a result, the concept album, once the poster of artistic vision in music, has become a niche pursuit, overshadowed by the digital age's demand for immediacy and fragmentation. Chapter 2: Technological Advancements and Algorithms. It can also be argued that at its very core, the way in which audiences engage with music has changed dramatically over the last 20 years. From a technological and cultural perspective, this evolution has shifted the primary unit of consumption from albums as artistic statements to single tracks. As stated by Professor Mattia Merlini, it is probably needless to say that there seems to be no place for the concept album format as people are more and more used to listening to individual songs. As a society, we have shifted technologically from cassette tapes and vinyls to smartphones and tablets, which in and of itself has affected the way we consume music. In recent years, with the rise of digital streaming and downloading, music discs have faced significant decline in sales. However, they continue to hold a special place in the hearts of audiophiles and collectors who appreciate the tangible beauty and nostalgia of physical music media. Another element to consider is simply how these platforms work. Spotify's algorithm, for example, favours songs that do well on curated playlists. We see evidence of this from the paper by Louis Aguirre and Joel Waldfogel, who state, appearing on today's top hits, a list with 18.5 million followers during the sample period raises the song's eventual streams by almost 20 million, which is almost a quarter of the average value of streams for songs that make that playlist. Because of this, singles have become the main way to gain visibility, streaming revenue, and audience engagement. The economic model of streaming incentivizes frequent single releases over waiting to compile an album. Since streaming revenue is calculated per play, artists and labels make more money by releasing a steady stream of singles rather than bundling all their material into a single album release, and even then, only a small amount is earned per stream, resulting in 0.0024 pence to 0.0039 pence per stream on average. This approach ensures ongoing relevance in a competitive marketplace where attention spans are fleeting and loyal fan base is necessary. Chapter 3. The remodelling of the concept album in modern society. Another key factor in modern concept albums and attracting fans is lore. In short, as described by Kieran Press Reynolds, lore means background information about a person. Typically, these are very random or secret pieces of information. Lore is typically associated with films and video games. Take the Blair Witch Project as an example. The producers created missing persons posters for all of the cast and posted them in the newspaper as part of the promotion for the film. The film's official website featured faux police reports as well as newsreel-style interviews. These augmented the film's found footage device to spark debates across the internet over whether the film was a real-life documentary or a work of fiction. Lore is also extremely common across games, as stated by Aidan, the owner of Illumination Gaming. Games often use lore to tell compelling stories. The lore can be used to create complex characters with deep backstories, or to explain the origins of the game's conflicts and villains. A famous example of this is Five Nights at Freddy's, FNAF. This is a 2014 point-and-click survival horror game developed and published by Scott Cawthon. The player controls Mike Schmidt, a night security guard at a family pizzeria. Schmidt must complete his shifts while avoiding the homicidal animatronic characters that wander the restaurant at night. FNAF gained rapid popularity following its release due to several playthroughs by famous YouTubers, allowing viewers to watch the game without having to pay for it. Even if fans weren't playing the game themselves, they were sharing the experience with their favourite creators. The wave of YouTube Let's Plays videos proved more effective than any marketing campaign could. Several new games would release over the next few years, slowly adding to the franchise and expanding on the lore of the universe. Much of the story of FNAF was not told directly to the players, but hinted at through clues and Easter eggs, allowing fan theories to thrive. With several different types of media being saturated with lore, it only makes sense for this to bleed over into music eventually too. This is not to say lore within music has never been touched upon before, because it has. An example being the aforementioned Tommy by The Who, which entails a deaf, dumb, blind kid who is a master at pinball being used as a cash cow. And one must consider, as stated by Richard Havers, it's all too easy to go, yeah, The Who's Tommy is great, love it. But just put it into perspective for a moment. This was one man's imagination, one man's vision, and it was groundbreaking. It becomes increasingly apparent that not only the demand, but the expectation for lore is becoming rapidly popular too. If video games and films can include lore, why can't music too? And certain artists are beginning to embrace this ideology. We will now explore this idea that modern concept albums often go beyond just sound with their lore, incorporating multimedia elements that enhance their storytelling. Ethel Cain's Preacher's Daughter exemplifies this evolution, as echoed by music critic Jess Hodgson. Preacher's Daughter is without a doubt a top contender for Album of the Year. It's a true masterpiece, a melting pot of macabre storytelling and ambient music. No one is doing it quite like Ethel Cain. Cain's atmospheric album delves into themes of trauma, faith, and generational dysfunction, weaving the haunting tale of its main character, a southern Gothic figure grappling with the dark narrative of family, religion, and self-destruction. Stephen Dorr briefly touches on the contents of the album, saying, "Preacher's Daughter also explores her own identity as a transgender woman navigating the world after being raised in a fanatical Southern Baptist community, bringing in themes of modern womanhood and the fetishization of femininity in religious circles." To bring this story to life, Cain has created a rich visual landscape, utilizing music videos, photography, and social media to enhance the experience. The visual components of Preacher's Daughter are crucial to its overall effect, adding several layers for fans to explore. Cain's cinematic music videos, like the one for American Teenager, blend nostalgic Americana with unsettling themes, mirroring the album's complex critique of the American dream. Additionally, Cain has crafted a haunting aesthetic on social media, featuring imagery that draws on religious symbolism, barren rural settings, and the stark beauty of the American South. This multimedia strategy forms a cohesive universe that invites fans to immerse themselves in the narrative. Journalist Alessandra De Caro touches on Cain's use of multimedia, stating, "She struck gold with the music video for the single God's Country, which captures a journey from Florida to Los Angeles with striking visuals shot entirely with VHS cameras for a raw and intimate feel." Interactive elements are also becoming more prominent in concept albums, encouraging fans to engage more deeply with the story. While Cain hasn't yet explored technologies like apps or augmented reality, her use of immersive visuals and storytelling hints at future opportunities for artists like her. With tools such as virtual reality, VR, and alternate reality games, ARGs, becoming more available, artists can create experiential worlds where audiences can engage with the concept album's narrative in real time. Christopher Ratcliffe claims Bjork was the pioneer of this. Bjork's beautifully immersive Biophilia app, released in 2011 to tie into her album of the same name, paved the way for new technology to enhance the listening experience. However, it's taken a couple of years for fellow pioneers to use the same technology to a similarly high standard. This fusion of music, visuals, and interactive storytelling provides listeners with a richer, multi-sensory experience, showcasing how the concept album can transform into a fully immersive art form. Dedicated fan bases play a crucial role in the enduring appeal of concept albums, and as stated by journalist Emily Heffernan, as an emerging artist just starting out or an established artist playing sold-out venues, maintaining a real connection with your fans is key. These works require time, focus, and emotional investment, making them especially appealing to listeners who seek deeper connections with an artist's vision and provide incentive to return for future projects. Concept albums, by their very nature, provide a sense of immersion that singles or fragmented playlists often lack. For fans, they offer an opportunity to step into a self-contained world where music, lyrics, and visual aesthetics coalesce into a singular artistic experience. To reiterate the earlier point, for many artists, concept albums serve as a powerful means to build strong connections with their audiences. By creating narratives that reward repeated listening and careful analysis, artists encourage fans to engage as co-creators of meaning. Concept albums can make a piece of art much stronger and more timeless. Concept albums ideally sprout from the exploration of feelings or ideas, opinions or facts, and express them through one or another art form. Julius Dobos allows us to refer to Ethel Cain Preacher's Daughter and Hosier's Unreal Unearth, which have both successfully embraced this approach, producing albums that resonate profoundly with their dedicated listeners as seen through critics' reviews. In an era when tracks are shrinking to the length of a TikTok video, it is rare to find a record that establishes its merit through its playthrough. However, Hosier's third studio album is not merely a collection of singles, but a structured exploration of human emotion. Cain's storytelling, as previously mentioned, has attracted a loyal following enchanted by her haunting tales and richly textured aesthetic. Concept albums also offer a space for artists to establish or redefine their brand. Frank Ocean's Blonde and Channel Orange are prime examples of this phenomenon. Ocean's deeply personal and thematically intricate albums weave together narratives of love, loss, and identity, allowing him to cultivate an enigmatic yet captivating brand that resonates with a devoted fan base, many of which use these albums to soundtrack their school careers, as echoed by journalist John Mendelsohn. Like a Midsummer Night Dream, for me, the album served as an anthem of transition as one life, carefree and buoyant, changed into the next, the start of my junior year. Ocean's use of cryptic storytelling and layered production has turned his music into a cultural landmark, securing his status as an artist whose albums invite full, immersive engagement. For emerging artists, concept albums can be a powerful way to distinguish themselves in a competitive music scene, highlighting not just their musical abilities but also their unique artistic vision. The revival of vinyl records and other physical media has significantly contributed to the renewed interest in concept albums. In a time when digital streaming dominates, vinyl provides a tangible connection to music, appealing to both collectors and audiophiles, as reflected in this statement from The Guardian. Yes, streaming is inarguably highly convenient, but the sound of digital music, as every vinyl fan knows, is not and never will be half so rich and warm as the sound of an LP, and playing it does not tend to encourage, as spinning a record does, truly serious listening. For concept albums, which often depend on thematic or narrative unity, the physical nature of vinyl enhances the listening experience, encouraging fans to engage with the music in a more intentional and ritualistic manner. Vinyl records typically feature packaging and artwork that align with an album's themes, creating a multi-sensory experience. Elements like gatefold sleeves, lyric inserts, and eye-catching designs transform vinyl releases into collector's items, making them a vital part of an album's storytelling. For instance, Radiohead's A Moon-Shaped Pool was released in deluxe editions that included artwork and physical elements, enriching its atmospheric mood. Similarly, Fleet Foxes' Shore provided a deluxe vinyl edition with essays and photography that expanded on the album's themes of reflection and renewal. The resurgence of vinyl also mirrors a broader cultural trend towards nostalgia and authenticity. While streaming offers convenience, vinyl delivers a slower, more deliberate listening experience, which aligns perfectly with the needs of concept albums that often require focused attention or full appreciation. Limited edition releases and exclusive vinyl pressings have gained popularity among superfans, further enhancing the allure of physical media. Artists like Lana Del Rey and Billie Eilish often release special vinyl editions, turning their albums into collectibles that foster fan loyalty. By merging exclusivity with aesthetic and narrative coherence, these releases elevate albums into immersive experiences that go beyond the music itself. Concept albums have carved out a successful niche in today's music scene, thanks to the backing of passionate fan bases and the resurgence of vinyl. By presenting engaging narratives and unified artistic visions, these albums attract listeners who crave a deeper connection with music. At the same time, the physicality of vinyl serves as a perfect medium for enriching the storytelling experience, making concept albums treasured art pieces for fans. Together, these trends demonstrate how concept albums continue to evolve and resonate in a changing musical landscape. Chapter 4: The Challenges versus the Opportunities. The Challenges. The concept album, an artistic expression that relies on thematic richness and narrative unity, encounters distinct challenges in today's society. In addition to the impact of listening habits and streaming services, it contends with societal changes in cultural values, attention spans, and the wider entertainment landscape, which have made the success of this ambitious format more complex. Consequently, artists are faced with the task of ensuring their work connects meaningfully in a world that is increasingly influenced by visual, interactive, and fragmented storytelling methods. This also includes the musician's integrity, as explored by Chenna Yaun. It is essential for musicians to be absolutely true and honest to the music when presenting it. It means not merely playing the correct notes with the right timing, it also means careful consideration of what the composer intended. One of the main challenges is the cultural shift towards immediacy and convenience. While this is not directly related to music consumption, society has developed a preference for quick, easily digestible forms of entertainment. Modern society is saturated with social media usage, as stated by Mohammed Hussein. Governments, political parties, non-profit organisations, medical facilities, academic institutions, and others are drawn to the dynamic usage and interactions of social media. Businesses and organisations are using social media to expand their client base and market share as more people use social media networks on a daily basis. From short videos on social media to bite-sized news and content on digital platforms, the collective desire for prolonged, thoughtful engagement has diminished. Concept albums, which often require listeners to dive into a larger narrative or thematic journey, can seem out of sync with these trends. Audiences are less willing to invest the time and mental effort needed to unpack the layers of meaning that concept albums usually provide, making it tougher for these projects to resonate with a broader audience. Furthermore, the sheer amount of artistic content being produced today creates a crowded marketplace. In this oversaturated environment, concept albums can find it particularly challenging to stand out. At a time when music releasing is more accessible than ever before, the challenge of standing out and capturing the attention as an indie musician is a common dilemma. Unlike traditional albums that often rely on a standout single for recognition, concept albums typically depend on the overall cohesion of the project, which can be more challenging to market or convey clearly. Without a distinct hook or easily digestible theme, these albums risk being overshadowed by more accessible or immediately engaging works. Additionally, the resources needed to create a compelling concept album can present another obstacle. Concept albums usually require more time, effort, and financial investment than traditional albums, as they often involve intricate storytelling, complex compositions, and thematic consistency. Journalist Alex Fleming adds, "An artist's hits or singles are like the first sketches of their Mona Lisa. It'll look nice, you may walk away pleased and impressed, but if you don't listen to their albums in their entirety, you're never going to see what the whole picture has to offer." Artists also face logistical challenges, such as integrating visuals, staging performances, or developing promotional materials that align with the album's narrative. For independent or emerging artists, these demands can be daunting, limiting the creation of concept albums to those with substantial resources, an idea reiterated by blogger Tobias Witt. The music landscape is constantly evolving, with new platforms and technologies emerging regularly. Staying current with these changes and being adaptable is vital. Artists should be open to learning and experimenting with new methods of content sharing and audience engagement to remain relevant. Finally, there's the issue of audience expectations. In an era when many listeners prefer familiarity, concept albums, by their very nature, often push boundaries and experiment with genres, or explore unconventional subjects. While this innovation is a defining feature of the format, it can also alienate listeners who seek straightforward, enjoyable music rather than a deeply introspective or avant-garde experience. Artists must strike a careful balance between their creative ambitions and the need to connect meaningfully with their audience, a task that requires a nuanced understanding of cultural trends and listener preferences. In today's society, the concept album remains a powerful medium for artistic expression, but it encounters significant challenges in a landscape that prioritizes immediacy, visual storytelling, and accessible content. To succeed, artists must navigate these challenges, discovering innovative ways to make their narratives resonate while remaining true to the integrity of the format. One could also ask, in a society rife with cancel culture, perhaps artists are too scared to release music that pushes boundaries. A prime example of this being Lil Wayne's Rebirth album. Christian Horde from Rolling Stones magazine states, "He splutters and wails over tracks stuffed with aggro stomp and bland riffage. It sounds like he's been holding up with a bunch of Spy Mob and Incubus records. Wayne growls like an auto-tuned Kid Rock on the swaggering American star." How can musicians be experimental when the idea of rejection looms over them? Kelly Murray of the Daily Wildcat writes, "When anyone gets famous, they are subject to more scrutiny as their lives are seen under a microscope. Anything deemed bad by the public will be brought to light and used against them. Musicians are targeted, and while some artists deserve to be cancelled, some apologise and make changes that the public can see." The opportunities. Despite the challenges that concept albums face in today's society, they also present numerous opportunities that can redefine their role in modern artistic expression. Rather than being pushed aside by trends that favour immediacy and visual storytelling, concept albums are in a unique position to thrive in an era where niche fan bases, transmedia storytelling, and the revival of physical media are reshaping the cultural landscape. In fact, these challenges can be viewed as opportunities for artists to innovate and connect with audiences in new and meaningful ways. Firstly, the emergence of niche communities driven by streaming services and social media offers a platform for concept albums to discover dedicated audiences. While mainstream listeners lean towards quick and easily digestible content, passionate fans actively seek out deep, immersive experiences that reward prolonged engagement. These listeners appreciate the narrative and thematic depth that concept albums provide, creating a loyal market for artists who commit to cohesive and ambitious projects. Knowing how to correctly categorize and tag your music will make it easier for fans of specific styles to organically find you and share your work with other like-minded people. Furthermore, the trend towards storytelling and entertainment has not diminished music's role. Instead, it has expanded it. Concept albums can act as complementary elements of broader multimedia narratives, integrating with visual, interactive, and digital platforms to deliver transmedia storytelling. Artists can utilize music videos, virtual reality experiences, podcasts, or even novels to elaborate on their album's themes, creating interconnected works that engage audiences across multiple mediums. This strategy not only enriches the narrative, but also offers more entry points for listeners to connect with the story. An example of this being The Who's Quadrophenia, a film created specifically to showcase the plot and soundtrack of an album. Although the plot is dark, Quadrophenia is a nostalgic look back to the iconic days of mod, the sense of belonging and the close rivalry with the rockers. Additionally, the return to physical formats for music, especially through records, has presented the kind of environment for concept albums to reform themselves as collectible works. Vinyl, unlike a list of songs or even streaming a single song, gives the listener the complete body experience in line with the concept of an album. Graphic designs as well as layout and lyrics can enhance the album and turn it into an object rather than a mere piece of musical art addressing both audiences, fans of the audio quality, and individuals who look for some sort of physical interaction with music. The physical format suggests sequential listening, which matches the nature of concept records, an obvious plus for the format. The physical media revival continues as shown. Physical media still plays a pivotal role at the top of the official albums chart, with 86% of the albums that debuted at the top of the charts having over 50% of their chart-eligible sales coming from physical formats. This is especially true given the greater competition a crowded marketplace may indeed appear, but it also indicates the need for unique and notable products. Globally, consultative albums have the potential to stand out from the current constant barrage of single releases or playlist fatigue through presenting something entirely unique. Indeed, these perfunctory, distinctive aesthetic features turn into the product's value that may attract those who are looking for something deeper and more memorable than typical viral shares. This is especially pertinent with the younger generation who are now choosing to fund projects such as these, projects that are truer to form an artist. Finally, although current overemphasized nuance and scrutiny from society and so-called cancel culture may make some artists too afraid to experiment, it emphasizes the need for significant risk-taking art. Concept albums, given their format, provide artists with a versatile freedom to express topical and in most cases sensitive issues in detail. Simplicity and fragmentation govern our lives in a way that is disorienting and superficial. This is why the album becomes a statement of rebellion and humane purpose, with artists being able to shape ideas that can engender full change into cuts that will strike a chord with the willing listener. Conclusion. The concept album is a distinctive and lasting art form that has adapted to the challenges posed by the modern music industry. Emerging in the 1960s as a way for artists to create cohesive thematic works, the concept album has consistently provided a platform for storytelling and emotional exploration. Although its popularity has varied over the years, its capacity to evolve ensures it remains relevant in an era marked by changing listening habits and technological advancements. Traditionally, the concept album was notable for its ability to convey ambitious narratives and tackle complex themes beyond individual tracks. Albums were designed as immersive experiences, encouraging listeners to engage with music as more than mere entertainment. However, the rise of digital streaming platforms has transformed how music is consumed, placing greater emphasis on singles and playlists rather than long-form projects. This change has made it challenging for concept albums to dominate the mainstream, as streaming algorithms favour shorter, standalone content that maximises replayability. Despite these obstacles, concept albums have shown remarkable adaptability. They've embraced new formats and strategies to align with changing listening habits. In a time of fragmented media consumption, artists are incorporating multimedia elements such as films, visual albums, and serialized releases to enhance the storytelling potential of their work. These innovations resonate with cultural trends that appreciate interconnected narratives and immersive experiences. The integration of lore and thematic depth into music mirrors a growing desire for storytelling across various media. Fans are increasingly attracted to works that encourage them to delve into deeper meanings and discover connections, a characteristic that has helped the concept album maintain its relevance. The revival of physical media has further bolstered the adaptation of the concept album. Vinyl records, deluxe editions, and other tangible formats attract fans who appreciate music as an art form rather than just disposable content. These tangible releases often deepen the immersive experience of concept albums, allowing listeners to connect with the music's narrative and themes in a way that streaming cannot replicate. This trend shows that, even in a digital-first world, there is still a place for formats that emphasise artistic depth and emotional impact. Looking ahead, the concept album is set to evolve further as artists explore new technologies. Virtual and augmented reality, interactive platforms, and innovative digital tools present exciting opportunities for fully immersive musical experiences. These advancements can push the boundaries of the concept album, merging music with visual and interactive elements to engage audiences in new ways. While the rise of singles and playlists poses challenges, the concept album's flexibility ensures it remains a vital medium for artistic expression. Ultimately, the enduring appeal of the concept album lies in its ability to connect music, narrative, and culture. It serves as a counterbalance to the fast-paced, fragmented nature of modern media consumption, offering listeners meaningful engagement. As the music industry evolves, the concept album's emphasis on storytelling and thematic coherence guarantees its lasting importance as both a cultural artifact and a symbol of artistic innovation. To stop the flow of music would be like the stopping of time itself, incredible and inconceivable.